Welcome to Gemcast Live. Today with us is Lucia, and we have with us R.L. Butler, who will be reading Lucia's story, The Pool. But first, let's hear from the author herself. Here's Lucia.
Hello, everybody. Well, thank you for reading, Butler, for listening, and also you for hosting, Aiden. And I don't know if I should say, speak or say something about the story.
If you like, please, tell us what we can expect in the story that we're going to be
Mm,
listening to today.
Okay. I wrote this story in 2019, and I was in a narrative workshop back then. So I wrote a lot of short stories, and we read a lot of Latin American authors. So I think this story and all of my short stories have that style. And I think it would be interesting if you paid attention to sort of this Latin American thing that this story has, and tell me if it's the same in your short stories, and also what's different. I would like to hear that.
What do you mean, like structurally, or do you mean what the story's about?
Mm, Probably how it is written, and
Okay,
also the style.
okay. Well, we'll definitely keep an eye on that, and we'll keep that in mind for the question and answer part. And now, we will introduce our reader today, R.L. Butler. Hi, Butler.
Hello. All right. Got everything pulled up. I've got the screen share ready. So we will get started. The pool. The black-haired man in the short-sleeved shirt must have been around 40, and at that moment he was laboriously standing on the roof of the building across the street, 8 or 9 floors above the ground. Gloria watched him from the living room of her apartment, remote control in hand, half reclined on the couch. Intrigued, she stopped on some random channel. She had already gone through the whole list twice anyway, and stayed there, staring at the man. He, on the rooftop, brought his hands together, tucked his head between his shoulders, and hurled himself down onto the pavement. Below, the parking lot floor made all his bones burst. Gloria turned her eyes back to the television and kept flipping through the channels, though she no longer stopped to see what was on. Every now and then, she glanced sideways through the window, but a sort of guilt forced her to focus her senses on what was happening inside her own 4 walls. Still, she needed only a few looks to notice that people were beginning to gather around the man's body, and it became harder and harder for her to concentrate on her reduced square meter, where everything was the same as always, especially when she heard the spectators of the strange event applauding. They were also smiling and making little joyful hops. Unable to hold herself back a second longer, Gloria turned off the television and went out into the street, where at least 50 people had gathered to watch, and more were still arriving. She rose onto her toes to see past the heads blocking her view, but she was distracted by the dilated eyes and exaggerated smiles that turned to look at her instead. After she had grown used to the collective fervor, when she even believed she was beginning to catch it, she found the man from the roof, reduced to a mush of meat on the asphalt. Those closest to the parking lot fence, far from wanting to move away from the smell or from the sight of bones escaping through torn tissue, raised their arms and shouted between jumps, "My turn! My turn!" "Why are they celebrating?" Gloria asked the young man beside her. He, hair full of curls and a thick dark beard, looked at her with a smile that stretched from ear to ear and placed one hand on her shoulder before answering. "We've never had a pool in this neighborhood before." Another person appeared on the roof from the building across the street. This time, it was a woman who, from where Gloria stood, looked the size of a doll. After giving herself a small push, she made an agile leap that lifted her 1/2 meter into the air, grabbed her knees, and spun a few times before dropping head first. Then all the bones in her spine broke at the same time. It was at the back of the woman's neck that received the most impact against the ground. The girls in the front row screamed and turned aside, their faces protected. Then they burst into laughter again as they shook their bodies and wrung out their hair. Gloria looked around. Only one person in the entire crowd was keeping himself from joining the others' euphoria. They both stared at each other for a long while, without daring to articulate a single word, though that did not stop them from telling each other exactly what they were both thinking. Nothing managed to pull Gloria's gaze away from those controversial brown eyes. Not the constant shoves from the people beside her, not the backs of heads and shoulders of the enthusiasts who wanted to see the imaginary pool from up close. Finally, once they had said everything, Gloria gave the young man a nod, and he answered with an almost imperceptible smile. They both moved forward, where a group of friends were still wringing out their dresses. The young man stood with his back to the parking lot and asked the spectators, "Why are you doing this?" His voice echoed between the buildings and generated a constant murmur among the masses. "You are completely free to express what you really see. You are not the only ones. I see it too." From the middle of the crowd, which now stood on tiptoe with raised arms and throats reddened from so much shouting, a tall woman appeared. She had dark hair, slightly wavy and very shiny. The features of her face were firm, her gaze decisive, and her lips as red as the blood silently advancing between the parking lot tiles. People stepped aside to let her pass, and within a few minutes everyone fell silent. "What is it you see?" she asked the young man. "And what gives you the right to question what others see?" "That wasn't what I was doing." "People are not stupid," the woman continued. "They don't need someone to tell them whether what their eyes interpret is true or not. You are the one who needs to stop imposing visions and admit that behind that fence there is nothing but a recently built pool and 2 people swimming." Suddenly, everyone present raised their hands at the same time and waved toward the dead bodies. "If you jump in the pool, I'll admit to whatever you want," the young man said. The girl with red lips smiled. "I don't know how to swim," she explained and shrugged. "In fact, I envy those who dare to jump in. But I have a better idea. Why don't you do it?" 4 of them grabbed the young man and, against his will, dragged him toward the building across the street. He screamed for help and tried to resist, but the laughter and applause drowned his laments. Once they entered the building, no one saw them again until they appeared on the roof 2 minutes later. With the unfortunate help of his captors, the young man stumbled toward the edge of the building, and then went flying into nothing, propelled by the 4 pairs of hands that accompanied him. His body fell clumsily and heavily, without the grace of the other 2 had had, but below, the result was the same. Once more, those in front covered their faces amid laughter and cries of jubilation. The others broke into applause and words of encouragement. "You did it! We knew you could." "Is there anyone else still refusing to see the beautiful gift we have before our eyes?" the girl with red lips suddenly asked. Everyone began shaking their heads from side to side, but her eyes were fixed on Gloria, who quickly joined the others and started saying no. "Then I invite you to go," she said. "Enjoy this wonderful pool." Like cockroaches, they all rushed toward the building at the same time. Some went up the stairs, others climbed through the windows and up the outer walls. The woman with red lips kept staring at Gloria, while the crunch of bodies being crushed against the floor echoed, both in her ears and in her stomach. "I don't know how to swim either," Gloria said, but she did not hesitate to join the praises of the few who had not yet thrown themselves into the pool. After watching them a second time, she noticed there was something strange about their smiles and the way they applauded. Their cheeks were flushed and wet, and their eyes seemed to be slowly sliding down the sides of their faces, as if they were melting from the inside out. Their hands, striking against each other, seemed to have acquired a life of their own, and many times their movements were so uncoordinated that they failed to meet. Even the elasticity of their arms did not seem to belong to a human being. Then Gloria looked down at herself and discovered she was replicating the same movements as everyone else, and that from her drooping eyes escaped tears that had nothing to do with happiness. The weeks passed, and the swimmers increased in great numbers. There came a time, after a torrential rain, when people were truly able to swim among the waters of the skin and limbs, and not everyone who dove in died below anymore. Every day, Gloria watched from her window as people played in the depths of the unconventional pool, and instead of spitting out water when they brought their heads to the surface, they spat out locks of hair and a mysterious brownish liquid whose origin Gloria preferred not to know. The woman with red lips appeared from time to time. As days went by, she did so less and less often. She was always sat facing the pool, on a beach chair and under the shade of her parasol, watching through her internationally branded sunglasses as people enjoyed themselves and had fun. She never got involved, unless some unfortunate soul questioned the existence or even the hygiene of the pool. Gloria had been tempted to do so several times, especially when the woman with red lips appeared, but she knew exactly how it would end, and that discouraged her. So she always ended up choosing to keep watching, and settled for grumbling from the comfort of her couch and the monotony of the television. The only time it became impossible for Gloria to ignore what was happening across the street was when she began to see that the limbs and viscera among which people swam were taking on a platinum and bluish tone, almost transparent. So Gloria opened the window and leaned her torso through the frame to see the parking lot more clearly. And the only thing she saw was water, except for his solitary head turning from side to side, rocking to the rhythm of the delicate currents generated by the people swimming. Despite the swelling of his face and the strange color of his skin, Gloria recognized the young man with brown eyes who had been forced to jump a month earlier. Taking advantage of the fact that the woman with red lips was not present, Gloria went to the building across the street and approached the pool. The head now floated near the most remote corner. Fortunately, that afternoon there were few people swimming. Gloria ventured along the edge, which she did not believe she had seen before, with extreme care, since it was narrow and slippery. When she was facing the head, she stretched out her arms and took it by the ears. It weighed more than she imagined and dripped in torrents. She tucked it between the right side of her body and her arm and took it away. She thought of taking it home, but her feet carried her in the opposite direction, and for hours she did nothing but move farther away from the pool, the water, and that wave of shared blindness. Gloria entered the cafe after the sky had gone dark, so the lights of the place reproduced themselves infinitely in the blackness of the window. There was only one person inside, a young woman in a green coat and a wicker hat, who did not take her eyes off the cup. She sat with her back to the window, at the table closest to the heater. The woman's red lips frightened Gloria for a second, but after a while, and, like the lady in green, chose a round, dark wood table for two. On the marble surface she placed the head, which, besides dripping, now smelled of rot, and she smiled. "I'm sorry, my child is here. Let me just take care of him for just a second." "What's the matter, buddy?" "Can you ask Johnny for help?" "Okay, I will help you in just a minute, okay? When I am done." Like that. "Okay, I am back. I am so sorry about that." Let's see. There we are. The woman in the green coat pushed her chair back and, after almost knocking over the fruit vase decorating the window frame, stood up and walked over to where Gloria was sitting. Her legs and hands were trembling, and her teeth chattering. Now that she saw her standing, Gloria noticed the woman was wearing a red bathing suit under the coat. On her feet, nothing but sandals. With a hard smile that seemed to hurt her cheeks, she said, "I'm on my way to the pool. Can I take that beach ball?" Gloria let out a sigh and looked at the face, which she now held by both cheeks. His eyes were nothing more than slits behind those two fat purple slugs. Do you really believe the pool is real? The woman in the green coat wrinkled her brow and nose, though they were barely visible beneath the shadow of her hat. Are you one of those people who refuse to believe the pool is real? Gloria did not answer, but she did not stop her from taking her friend's head either, or from leaving the cafe while bouncing it against the tiles. When they had both disappeared, Gloria asked the waitress for a pencil and wrote across the menu, "The pool does not exist. The pool does not exist. And the pool never existed, but now it is real." Gloria wondered what kind of eyes would find her words, and whether people's eyes would be less foolish than their ears, or whether they too had fallen under the hypnotic spell of dangerous red lips. Finally, she felt almost certain that where she saw letters, others would see vipers. End of selection.
Woohoo! Nice story. Great job reading too. That was legit creepy. I was very interested to see what would happen in the story. That's one hell of an imagination.
Thank you.
Where,
Also,
where
thank you, Blackbeard. That was amazing.
where did you get the idea to write that, Lucia? Like where did you get inspiration to get like some of those ideas and put them together?
Inspiration, I don't know. I mean, from several places, from a lot of places. This one in particular had something to do with something happening to me. So I guess I could say I took inspiration from life, from my life. Uh, but other stories come from pictures, music, movies, everything.
Like what I took from it was like this must be what it feels like when like you're the only one who's not crazy. Um, so that's like one of the first thoughts I had. But then I was thinking, well, I mean, like you don't really know what's going on because you don't know if it's like an unreliable narrator or like what. But then I'm like thinking, well, I mean, I don't know if people are like, jumping off of roofs and dying or not, but like who's to say that like their interpretation of what's really going on versus the narrator's interpretation of what's going on? Like who's right here? What's going on? Like I started having thoughts like that. That was very interesting.
Thank you.
Um, Butler, are you with us right now?
Yes, I just had to step away to help my child for a second, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
back.
Cool. Like what did you think?
I loved it. It was proper creepy.
Yeah, I
The
know,
first
right?
time I read it, I had like goosebumps all over. And there were even still a couple times this reading when I was tempted to go, "Ooh, that was creepy." But I was in the middle of narrating, so I couldn't stop to say that.
Oh, would you, Lucia, like so from the writer's perspective, the narrator is
Mhm.
is is very is in reality, right? Like, and these are just crazy people jumping off of roofs, or is she mentally ill? Like, what's going on?
I think that depends on the reader. I
Okay,
I have a personal answer, but I think it's not in the story. It's open for the reader to decide.
I like that. I like it because that's kind of like what art is, in my opinion. Like, someone could like paint something and or write something and like that could be the writer's interpretation. This happens with music a lot. Like I'll be listening to a song and I'll be like ruining like not ruining, but like I'll have the wrong lyrics, but I like them. And then when I see the real lyrics, I'm like, I like mine better. And like I think with
Yes.
art, yeah, I think with art, like human beings can interpret whatever it is according to what their experience is. And like I think that's really cool. All right, like I very much enjoyed it. That's typing something, so we might have a question. Um, do you have a question, Butler? Do you have anything that like came to mind that like you might want to like ask her?
Nothing that you haven't already asked. Yeah, you took all my questions, so
I'm getting more adept at this because like um okay, but he just said excuse me instead of excuse me while I kiss this guy, it's excuse me while I kiss this guy.
yeah.
But like, yeah, thanks for sharing, Lucia. It's a wonderful short story. It's a great entry into your short story world where we could find that on Substack. And
Yes.
and Butler is awesome. Like at fantastic reading. It's like you're so like expressive when you read. Like I feel like you have so much flexibility with like style and genre too. Like Seth just said, you're amazing. Like yeah, it's
Oh,
it's
thank
it's it's
you.
it's really a joy to listen to you read. I hope you're not burning you out with the Gemcast.
No.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming. It will be up on YouTube in the next few days. Um, and hopefully you guys go check out Lucia's work, and hopefully we'll have you guys back soon for another Gemcast reading by R.L. Butler. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
Thank